Maurice was so put together. Like he was very debonair and suave, knew how to speak, knew how to smile, knew how to stay reserved. My mom called me and she said, "Your Uncle Maurice was killed." And I said, "What?"
We entered the residence at that point, and both of us could smell an odor of decay.
I started shining my flashlight around in the room, and that's when I seen blood.
She's developed this fixation with him.
It was kind of like we came into each other's lives at that time for a reason.
She thought because of her age and the way she looked that we wouldn't have suspected.
She just lied and lied and lied.
The dream wasn't going to come to fruition. She wanted payback.
Guthrie, Oklahoma, is just over 32 miles north of the state capital of Oklahoma City.
You don't really hear about a lot of violent crime in a place like Guthrie. It's like a lot of towns in Oklahoma, more of a kind of smaller, tight-knit community.
On the afternoon of Saturday, December 10th, 2011, officers on patrol with the Guthrie Police Department receive a request for a welfare check on 60-year-old resident Maurice Byrd.
Maurice used to live across from the police department, and I used to, every now and then, go out there and say, "Hey, what's up, Maurice?" Dispatch calls and says that Maurice's ex-wife wants to talk to me on the telephone. Dispatch passed me through to her, and she said that Maurice was supposed to be in Kansas City with the rest of his family to make some decisions about his mother. She said something's wrong because Maurice was supposed to be in here last night. She said he wouldn't miss this. I go to the house, knock on the door, nobody answering the door. So I walked completely around the house, didn't really see anything, and I went back around, knocked on the door again.
He tried the doorknob, which the front door was unlocked. At that point, Officer Williams, he called me and asked for my assistance so we can go check this residence. So we went to the front door, opened it up, announced ourselves that we were the Guthrie Police Department.
They get no reply.
We entered the residence at that point, and both of us could smell an odor of decay. We went through the kitchen, and there was a chair that was knocked over. I observed some droplets of blood that was there on the floor.
The officers cautiously follow a trail of blood to the bedroom.
I took my flashlight, started shining my flashlight around in the room, and that's when I seen Maurice Byrd laying on the floor on the left side of the bed, and I could see blood. It was obvious he was deceased.
I could see that he had been deceased for a little while just due to the discoloration in his skin, and also notice a pool of blood under the side of his head.
The officers can't tell how Maurice died, but there are enough red flags to call it suspicious.
You have one chair that's overturned, and then a little bit of blood splatter that's on the ground, and then Maurice is found by the bed. It appeared that there was a little bit of a struggle.
I stepped back outside of the residence and made contact with my chief of police at the time. He said, "Go ahead and call our investigations unit," and OSBI was also notified.
I couldn't think of a reason why somebody would do anything to Maurice, because as far as I knew, he was a good dude. He was a good guy. It was kind of puzzling.
Frances Maurice Byrd was born in 1951 and raised in Kansas.
We had a really big family, and my grandma and her sister raised us like within blocks of each other. Granny had a house on the corner, and Aunt Wanda had a house down the street. And my Uncle Maurice was Aunt Wanda's son. We were all always at the other's house. And, you know, no knocks on doors, in and out, you know. Everybody knew everybody's business, obviously. And, you know, we just all loved each other.
Like the rest of his family, Maurice graduated from Independence High School, and then he went on to pursue a degree in business, which he obtained in college.
Maurice was so put together. Like, he was very, like, debonair and suave and, like, attractive and, like, smooth. Very professional, very eloquent, knew how to speak, knew how to smile, knew how to stay reserved. He wasn't, like, confrontational or aggressive, but he was very commanding of his space.
In 1976, Maurice got married and started a family.
He and his wife went on to have 2 beautiful children and basically the American dream, a nice home, a nice family, everything that he really could have asked for. Maurice was a building contractor. He was good at what he did, and he was committed to doing the best job that he could.
After the kids left home and over 35 years of marriage, Maurice and his wife divorced.
He was still very involved in his family's lives, his siblings, his kids. He even kept up a relationship with his ex-wife. He was really looking for a fresh start and a place that he could really thrive with his real estate company, commercial and residential. And Guthrie was seen as a place that was still on the up and up, still with room to grow.
At this time in his life, he moved to Guthrie as kind of a restart.
He was very active in the community. He was a counselor for at-risk youth and the director of a nonprofit organization in the community.
He wanted to give back. He was gonna open some houses for at-risk people trying to transition back into society. He wasn't judgmental. He knew that we all had a past and that we can either take our past and use it as building blocks and become successes, or we could be stuck in our past. And he was all about giving people second chances. As suave as he was, as debonair as he was, as successful as he was, the most important thing was getting these people off the streets and giving people a chance to do better.
But Maurice will never see his dream come true. He lies dead in his bedroom in a pool of blood. Agents with the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation arrive at his Guthrie home.
When we entered the bedroom, we could tell that Mr. Byrd had been shot. We didn't find any casings, and there was not a gun there. That pretty much gives you a good indicator that wasn't suicide, that someone had killed him.
Someone shot him 4 times in the back. Whoever did this wanted to make sure he was dead.
First and foremost, there weren't any signs of forced entry to the residence. And that can tell you a couple of things. One is that Maurice had opened the door and maybe somebody had surprised him. However, there was no signs of struggle at the doorway. There was no marks on the door, meaning that it didn't appear that entry was made forcibly into the residence. So the possibility emerged that Maurice knew the killer.
Does that mean they were friends? Does that mean that you open the door and somebody's got a gun in your face?
The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation is in Guthrie, where 60-year-old Maurice Byrd has been found inside his home with 4 gunshot wounds to the back.
There wasn't any forced entry to the house. It didn't show that it was a burglary. We didn't discover anything from the residence that was stolen.
There is one possible exception.
We knew that Maurice had a vehicle, but no vehicle was currently at the residence. So initially it was thought that whoever had killed Maurice had actually taken his car as well.
Inside, investigators try to piece together what happened.
You could see a turned over chair in the kitchen, and we could see a drop of blood.
Investigators theorize Maurice was first shot in the kitchen.
It appeared that he ran away and he was shot again in the bedroom and was found face down.
That's where you start to think, was he trying to seek safety? Was he trying to get to a weapon of his own? His handgun was next to the bed inside a drawer. And you start to think that maybe he was trying to get something to defend himself with.
There wasn't any shell casings. Sometimes that could indicate that someone picked them up. It could also indicate that it was a revolver versus a handgun, a semi-automatic.
There is something else in the bedroom that stands out.
Processing the bedroom where Mr. Byrd's body was, there were several gift cards that was laying on the dresser.
The cards are worth thousands of dollars.
There's nothing criminal about it. It just seems strange.
Investigators contact Maurice's family.
In this case, everyone was out of state, and exigency actually required us to notify at least one of the family members first via telephone. Somewhat uncommon, but we needed to get that out there and see what it is that the family knew. So the first call was to Maurice's ex-wife. Although suspecting something bad, of course, it was still shocking to her to learn that Maurice had passed, especially that it wasn't natural causes.
I just can't imagine anybody having anything bad to say about him.
Well, the first thing you'd want to do is figure out who's the last person that contacted him.
She begins to establish a timeline. She hadn't spoken to him since around the 5th or the 6th.
In calls to his brother and daughter, they say the same thing.
No one has actually spoken with him after the 6th, so about 5 days since he was located.
Then we shifted into a mode of walking around to the neighbors, asking them if they heard any gunshots. When was the last time they'd seen Maurice? Everybody that I spoke to had not seen him within a 2-day period.
Between December 7th and December 10th is probably when he was murdered, because they didn't hear from him from that time period.
Detectives learned that Maurice's car was not stolen.
Neighbor number 2 that I spoke with, he had known quite a bit, but the last time that he had talked with Maurice was a few weeks earlier, just before Thanksgiving. He said that Maurice had a gray sedan, and it was currently being worked on by a mechanic.
We would also be looking at who has surveillance video and go from that point.
It was learned that there was a camera that was on a church that actually was just to the south of this property, and it got a good portion of the street out in front of Maurice's house.
Knowing that Maurice's car has been in the shop for weeks, detectives look to see if any other vehicles have been to his house in the days since his family last heard from him.
Now, there was one timestamp that the police found interesting. It was marked for December 7th at 7:18 p.m.
And on that camera footage, you see a sedan, medium to light colored, pull up, and out comes a lady. She goes into the house, spends a certain amount of time in there, comes out of the house and leaves in the sedan.
A white elderly woman with white hair got out and went inside. She was inside for about 5 minutes, and then she gets back into her car and drives away.
Her visit comes after Maurice's family and neighbors last heard from him. Whoever she is, she could be the key to solving the case.
They need to talk to her because there's questions. Did you know something? Were you just coming to visit Maurice? Did you see something?
All new.
My mom called me and she said, your Uncle Maurice was killed. And I said, what? And she goes, your Uncle Maurice was killed. And it was just devastating. And I said, what happened? And she goes, well, we're not sure. Death is devastating, but he was murdered in his home and he was shot in his back. You know, he was murdered. The loss of my uncle was very devastating to my family because we loved him so much and he was such a great example of love, of kindness, of compassion, and of community service. It was tragic.
Investigators in Guthrie, Oklahoma, are reviewing surveillance footage that shows an elderly woman in a gold sedan entering the home of Maurice Byrd after he was last heard from by family and neighbors.
You couldn't really identify the person that got out of the car that walked to the house because it's dark.
Investigators keep watching. 20 minutes after her first visit, a second camera picks up the vehicle again.
Both cameras are picking up this same gold sedan, which seems to be going back and forth in the neighborhood. It just seems strange.
That vehicle had been circling around that house a couple of times.
Eventually, she parks, this time in an alley adjacent to the church.
Again, you see this same gold sedan on this footage, and you see the same elderly white woman with white hair get out and go into Maurice's home. But this time, she doesn't leave for an hour.
Investigators move quickly to try and identify the woman.
You can't see the license plate, and you can't really identify the person in it. It just looks like an older lady.
That information was forwarded to me to be able to determine the type of vehicle. And we were able to determine the make and model of that car, even a year range.
Police turn to the residents of Guthrie for help.
At this point, the police have done all they can, and they're gonna need help from the media. Journalists have the ability to reach out to communities, to gather responses and trust in a way that sometimes police can't do. We put the information out there in hopes that someone will be able to recognize the vehicle, recognize the woman in the footage.
But days pass without any leads.
No one was able to identify her, and it was almost like she was just a ghost.
On December 17th, 2011, 10 days after Maurice's murder, Guthrie police receive a phone call from one of his family members. According to the relative, something upsetting occurred at Maurice's funeral earlier that day.
The family gets to the funeral. You know, they're in the process of mourning Maurice, spending time with their loved ones, and this woman shows up. And instead of, you know, asking the family if there's anything that she can do for them, expressing her condolences, she's asking for money that she believes Maurice owes her.
She makes a request to the family and says, Maurice owes me money. And it wasn't just $5, $20. It was $20,000. And she starts asking questions about when his estate was going to be divvied up and just all kinds of inappropriate questions.
She literally started going into how Uncle Maurice owed her money and that she had belongings in his apartment that belonged to her, and she wanted those things. And she wanted to see about any insurance or anything because she was owed.
The family member goes on to say that the woman isn't a stranger. She is 65-year-old Beverly McComb.
She actually used to date Maurice's cousin, so they had seen her around before, but Maurice's cousin had since passed away.
We didn't really get along, but her and my dad weren't together for very long.
So for her to be here requesting money at a funeral, what relationship do you now have with Maurice that entitled you to come and ask something like this? It was weird, so the family said, you know what, we're calling the police.
Mrs. McComb was asking for money, wanting the family members that was his children to pay back some money that he owed her. Well, that's obviously very suspicious.
Investigators immediately take a look at Beverly McComb.
Investigators look into her vehicle to see what she owns, and what they find is that she's the owner of a gold sedan, the same gold sedan that was seen at the church surveillance footage.
Investigators also learned that Beverly lives 250 miles away in Forney, Texas.
On December 20th, OSBI, in cooperation with the Texas Rangers, applied for a warrant to search this woman's home in Forney, Texas.
At the same time, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation agents travel to Forney to question Beverly.
You know, this is a 65-year-old woman, quiet home in the suburbs. What is the link? What is the reason that she would have to travel from Texas to Oklahoma? How were Maurice Byrd and Beverly McComb connected?
This is about Maurice Byrd. And do you know Maurice?
Hand over.
Agents with the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation are in Forney, Texas, questioning 65-year-old Beverly McComb about the shooting death of Guthrie resident Maurice Byrd.
So police started interviewing Beverly, and she was very calm in her demeanor. She was compliant, answering questions.
All right. How do you know Maurice?
I went with his cousin, like I said, back in '87. I met him then, and then just over the years, we were around each other.
Okay. Who's Maurice's cousin?
Tommy Anderson, and he's deceased. That's how I reconnected with Maurice.
Her relationship with his cousin didn't go well, and they broke up. And then when they broke up and she kind of never really found anybody to be with, then she went online trying to see if she could find Tommy, and then discovered that Tommy had passed away. So then she reached out to Maurice and then was able to reconnect with him.
Beverly felt an instant connection and a closeness to Maurice because he was related to Tommy.
So what type of relationship did you and Maurice end up having? Were you guys boyfriend, girlfriend?
No. We were very good friends. He had the philosophy that that things are kind of, predestined. He was very spiritual.
Beverly says that Maurice inspired her to make a fresh start in Guthrie, just as he had done after his divorce.
He said that, he kind of told me beforehand about how he was kind of living sparsely, I guess you would say. And he said that someone that owed him money hadn't paid him. I thought, well, I've still got some. Maybe, I could get a little bit of money to help him.
Did you get cash and give it to him out of that, or did you transfer it?
I transferred it. I got, it's like some kind of a money card.
When we were processing the crime scene in the bedroom, I remember seeing some gift cards laying on the dresser. That was how she was paying him money.
If you had to guess at a total dollar amount that you gave him over the past 3 months.
I think it came out to $17,000 and something.
She stated that she had given Maurice $17,000 to $20,000 over a span of 3 months.
But Beverly insists she was okay with that.
Was he using you?
I don't think so.
Don't think so?
No. He fully intended to pay me back.
Beverly admits to investigators she was in the Guthrie area the week Maurice was killed.
When was the last time you saw him?
Oh, I think it was a few days before this happened.
Before he died?
Mm-hmm.
But investigators tell Beverly they know exactly which day she was there.
Okay. There's several cameras on this building.
Okay.
With different views.
They present Beverly with footage that shows her entering Maurice's home the first time on December 7th.
That's the day he died.
That day?
Did you ever see him again after that?
No.
But investigators tell her the footage shows her going back 20 minutes later.
You went back to the house that night. Tell me what happened when you went back to the house that night.
So now she has no choice but to reveal, yes, I was there.
Beverly offers an explanation.
She tells them a story of Maurice encouraging her to, obtain a gun to protect herself. She's an elderly woman living alone, and that, according to her, Maurice took her to get the gun. She tells investigators that she went with Maurice to a shooting range, but they know she's lying.
The worst thing that you can do is lie to me.
They press Beverly for the truth, but they are unprepared for what she says next.
You didn't go there with the intent to kill him, did you?
I didn't go by myself.
Then slowly, with hesitation, admitted that somebody else was with her that night.
The situations that she put us in, just wicked.
All new Fatal Attraction.
People underestimated her probably because of the way she looked. They would look at her and say, oh, that's a grandma. She didn't do nothing. I think she thought because of her age and the way she looked that we wouldn't suspect it, but, we got detectives that don't stop until they get what they need to get, until they get the right person.
Presented with surveillance footage, Beverly McComb admits she did return to Maurice Bird's home on the afternoon he was shot and killed. But Beverly says she didn't go alone.
Who is he?
I don't know his last name.
What's his first name?
Max.
Is he your boyfriend?
He's just someone that I had met.
How did you meet him?
In Guthrie.
She seen him walking down the street and just decided to pick him up. They went to a motel and they had sex.
And then they had a rendezvous at the hotel for several days.
During their tryst, Beverly confided in Max about the money she'd loaned Maurice.
And he's a nice person. And he felt sorry for me, but I mean, he felt more like that I'd been, taken advantage of.
Max, he told her, you need to stand up for yourself and you need to get your money back.
On December 7th, she says they went to Maurice's home together. They took her gun, at Max's suggestion.
He thought that we should take it in, and I tried to talk him out of it.
To scare him?
Yeah. Then Maurice opened the door, and I started in, and then Max came behind me and came in. And then he and Max, they were hollering back and forth at each other, and I went in to use the bathroom. And it seemed like that it was escalating.
While she was in the bathroom listening to the conflict, she heard Maurice say, "Oh, you got your gun. I've got mine too." And that's when she heard the gunshots go off.
And after that, she's so scared and terrified that she runs out of the house.
Beverly told police that when they left the home, Max left on foot and she left in her vehicle, which is why you wouldn't see him get in her vehicle on the surveillance camera.
Okay, I mean, you're being honest with me about that. Is he the one that shot Maurice? Or did you do it?
No, I didn't.
Okay, Max did. And you're being 100% honest with me.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I have to check all of this out.
She doesn't know his last name, but she does have his phone number written down on a piece of paper at her house.
Beverly tells them they will find the gun there as well.
He gave you the gun back?
Yeah.
Where's it at your house?
It's on a shelf in my closet.
Then Beverly puts a sudden end to the questioning.
Maybe I do need a representative.
At Beverly's house, the search is already underway.
Police found a piece of paper with Max's number on it.
They also find the gun, just where Beverly said it would be.
Police find a .38 revolver in her house.
And, it's the same type of gun that was used in Maurice's murder, and the number of bullets missing matched the amount of shots to Maurice's body.
So at this point, she has said that Max has shot Maurice, and police are now at the point where they have to do their due diligence.
They trace the phone number and come up with a name Guthrie police are familiar with.
Max was just a guy that everybody knew that, just hung around town and did what he did. And I found Max at one of the stores here in town and told him I need you to come to the police department.
when you're
Oklahoma investigators have picked up the man Beverly McComb claims shot and killed Maurice Byrd at his home. Guthrie police question him.
They present Beverly's name to him and says, hey, tell me about your relationship with this woman. Max goes on to say that what Beverly said was an embellishment of the truth. That Max was walking down the street one day, confronted by an older woman who was asking basically for sexual relations. Max agreed. They went back to her motel. They did what they did, but that was the extent of the relationship.
Max explained that he was not guilty and he had nothing to do with Maurice's murder.
Max offers an alibi.
He was at a convenience store at the time of the murder.
So I went to the store, pulled the video, and there's Max on video cashing the check. So at that point, we knew Max didn't do anything.
That only left one person, Beverly McComb.
On December 22nd, 2011, police arrested Beverly in her Texas home for the murder of Maurice Byrd.
Beverly maintains her innocence. In early 2013, prosecutors prepare for trial. They believe Beverly developed strong feelings for Maurice after they started talking online.
It's almost as if she's developed this fixation, this obsession with him.
But the tides turned when she loaned him thousands of dollars.
Apparently he wasn't paying it back quick enough for what she liked.
She decided to take matters in her own hands. She purchased a gun, drove from Texas to Guthrie.
Prosecutors say that Beverly approached Maurice at his home demanding he pay her back the $20,000 in loans. Either he refused or he didn't have it, but he gave her an answer she didn't like.
They're arguing and he's not giving her money back, and she just got angrier and angrier. Beverly was just hurt. She wanted revenge. She was angry. So she shot Mr. Byrd and killed him.
When Beverly realized that the dream that she believed that she saw in Maurice wasn't going to come to fruition, it wouldn't come into reality, she got angry and she wanted payback.
Facing life in prison, Beverly starts having second thoughts.
Now, in March 2013, Beverly's attorney files a motion to change her plea in order to strike a deal where if she admits guilt, she'll be given a more lenient sentence. The judge ultimately sentences her to 40 years in prison with 30 years suspended as long as she maintains good behavior.
Maurice's family is outraged.
Is it a deal just for women, or is it a deal just for white people? What kind of deal is it? And can we call it what it is? It's just not right.
She didn't even serve the full 10 years before being released. You know, we have cases in Oklahoma of people who were sentenced to life in prison for simply being at the scene of a crime when they were 18, sometimes 17 years old. And you have this elderly white woman who thinks about what she's going to do. It's a premeditated act. She goes and murders someone, lies to police about it, and then even after she gets caught, she's given a lenient sentence.
It's all a travesty. Nobody's satisfied. My family is not satisfied. Justice was not served. She did not pay for her crime. Is there a world where he would have taken $20,000 for her and not given her money back? Absolutely not. There is no history of my uncle running off with people's money. None whatsoever. He had no reason to not pay her back. He wasn't a thief, he wasn't a crook. And that's a real loss.
She was 16 years old with her entire life ahead of her.
She was the type of person that everyone wanted to be friends with.
She had a really bright future.
Until her sudden disappearance left everyone searching for answers.
The story wasn't making any sense.
There's a lot of things that just aren't adding up here.
If you see her, have her call me, okay?
The investigation will lead detectives to uncover a crime unlike anything they've seen before.
She was tied up and bound.
There was something shoved down her throat.
Who would do such a thing to such a beautiful girl?
Had young love turned to hate?
She kept a lot of secrets.
It was a love triangle.
She is a part of this entire tangled web.
We're going to run a voice stress test.
And when the truth comes out, will it be enough to put a cold-blooded criminal away for life?
It was almost 3 years of pure hell.
It's something that no family should ever have to go through.
You think they might just get away with this?
November 29th, 2003. It's the Saturday after Thanksgiving in Pennsauken, New Jersey, a charming, family-friendly community just across the river from downtown Philly.
Pennsauken is a peaceful community, a loving town. It's right outside Philadelphia, and around Thanksgiving, it's a wonderful time.
It's a festive time of year. The beauty of autumn with all of the trees. You would see the golds and the ambers.
It's the perfect time of year for families to celebrate and enjoy one another.
But for the parents of one local teen, Sharita Williams, it's proving hard to stay in the holiday spirit.
The Friday after Thanksgiving, she had told her parents that she was going to the nail salon with her friend.
Sharita left the house around 5:30 in the evening.
When she didn't return home that night, the parents wasn't that concerned at first.
They assumed she had spent the night with her best friend, Adriana.
Her friend lived approximately 5 minutes away, and this is something that they did on a regular basis.
However, when Sharita's parents still hadn't heard from their daughter the next morning, they knew it was time to check in.
This was back in 2003, so Sharita didn't have a cell phone. The only way to reach her was to call her friend's home.
Hey, Adriana.
When Adriana answers their call, they realize they were right to worry.
Adriana wasn't with Sharita.
Sharita had not spent the night with her.
But you saw her yesterday, right?
No.
You didn't go to the nail salon together?
No, I've just been here with my family.
She found out that they had never gotten together.
She was not where she said she was going to be.
So you don't know where she is?
I'm sorry.
It became a panic situation because if she's not with her, then who's she with?
A native of Pennsauken, New Jersey, 16-year-old Sharita Williams grew up in a stable and loving home.
She was the middle child of 3 children.
She was well loved within her family.
Family was very important to her.
Known for her bubbly personality, Sharita had earned the nickname Sunshine.
Sharita was so charismatic.
She was the type of person that everyone loved. People were naturally drawn to her because she had a kind heart.
Sharita Williams was one of those bright, shining stars.
She was extremely persistent, the type of person that if she wanted to do something, there was nothing stopping her.
She had aspirations of going to college, and she wanted to get involved in doing social work.
Gorgeous inside and out, no one was surprised when Sharita found herself popular among the boys at school.
Sharita, any chance I could cover your notes for English class?
Hey, sure. Just make sure I get them back this time, okay?
Of course.
She had a lot of guys who were interested in her because she was absolutely beautiful and she had a great personality.
She's the person who you can't believe is speaking to you because you swear she must know how pretty she is and how popular she is. And a lot of people would have presumed her to be unapproachable, but she was the opposite of that.
At Sharita's age, this is the time when everybody's trying to find someone to connect with, where you really want to just have somebody for yourself, and she was looking to find that someone that she liked.
You don't know where she is.
But now, Sharita has gone from having the world at her fingertips to disappearing off the face of it.
I can't imagine how Sharita's mom and dad may have felt.
Start making some calls.
Okay. This is a parent's greatest fear when a child is missing.
Have you heard from Sharita?
Frantic with worry, Sharita's parents spend the entire morning trying to track their daughter down.
Okay, if you see her, have her call me, okay?
They started calling and contacting her friends to see if they knew where she was at.
We need to go to the police.
But by lunchtime, they're no closer to finding Sharita.
Of course, they went to report her missing at the police department.
Hi, excuse me. We need to file a missing persons report for our daughter.
Has anything like this happened with her before?
It's common for children to get upset at that age and leave the home.
Well, it's pretty common in teenagers to do this kind of stuff.
Not Sharita. She would never do anything like this to us.
She's not a runaway kind of person. She's not the kind of young lady that anybody is thinking would be in any kind of trouble of her own making.
Listen, I hear what you're saying, but you're gonna have to come back tomorrow.
What you talking about tomorrow?
The police department's procedure was that they would not put a missing persons out until 24 hours.
We'll find her ourselves.
But as far as Sharita's family is concerned, there's no time to waste.
It's just not normal that she wouldn't come home.
They wanted to figure out where their daughter was.
Sharita's parents decided to take matters into their own hands.
They begin by splitting up to cover more ground.
They went out, they were canvassing for her.
But when Sharita's mother reaches the 36th Street Bridge, something stops her dead in her tracks.
She noticed something down at the bottom of the bridge.
She sees a figure under the bridge.
It kind of looked like a dead body.
At 16 years old, New Jersey high schooler Sharita Williams was already well on her way to success.
She was well respected within her school, very popular, absolutely beautiful.
She wanted to be a social worker. She was looking at colleges.
She had a good life ahead of her.
But after leaving home the Friday after Thanksgiving to hang out with a friend, Sharita never returned.
The police told them to wait to file a missing persons report the next day, but they didn't want to waste time waiting. They knew something was wrong.
Sharita's parents decided to go look for her. They actually split up. So Mom went to that area near the 36th Street Bridge as Dad continued to comb the streets looking for Sharita.
And not long into their search, Sharita's mother has made a chilling discovery.
Her mom walked up to the 36th Street Bridge and saw something down below.
A body was laying there.
Oh my God!
That area was a known area that homeless people stayed at. So she thought it might have been a homeless person that might have fallen.
Oh my God, oh my God!
She's hoping that that's not her daughter.
Pennsauken police arrive on the scene within minutes.
As they go towards the body, they notice that it is not a homeless man as Mom was thinking it might be, but it's a young woman. So they begin to look around and they find a purse.
I got a purse over here.
When they opened the purse, they happened to see that Sharita's ID was inside the purse. So they confirmed that unfortunately it was her.
Say, man, let mom know?
Yeah, I'll go let her know.
I can't imagine what it must have been like for Sharita's mom.
Excuse me, ma'am. So,
She goes into a wail of a panic. A gut-wrenching, soul-breaking cry.
It's the type of news that would just make you want to drop to your knees.
After Sharita was ID'd, they removed her mom from the crime scene so they could begin their investigation.
As detectives arrive, they initially wonder if Sharita's death was a tragic accident.
The night before was a bad night. It was rainy, it was wet out there.
Maybe she had fallen from the bridge.
But a closer look quickly puts that theory to bed.
Sharita was found with her hands bound behind her back.
The killer had actually used a belt from the young girl's coat.
it's like a do-rag.
There was a do-rag that had been tied around her neck.
Sharita's clothing also forces the detectives to consider another disturbing possibility.
Her pants were undone and her shirt was open.
There was bruising on her body.
It was believed that Sharita might have been sexually assaulted.
It's just unbelievable, unimaginable.
As they scour the area for evidence, detectives discover a potential clue not far from Sharita's body.
There was a receipt from a sporting goods store. It was the same date when Sharita had went missing.
It was for a men's t-shirt. So had the killer left it there, or was it just a coincidence?
Hey, detectives, can you come over?
What's that?
It looks like a shopping bag.
They find 2 plastic bags stuffed down her throat.
One of the bags came from the same sporting goods store as the receipt.
Oh, receipt.
And shockingly, it had been used as a murder weapon.
Looked as though her assailant tried to choke her, and when the do-rag didn't silence her fully enough, these bags were stuffed into her throat.
It's a sign that Sharita's life was taken by an unusually vicious killer.
This wasn't shooting someone from 20 feet away. This was up close and personal.
It had to be someone that was really deranged. Out of all the cases that I've been on, I don't recall a situation where I found a plastic bag shoved in their mouth to stop them from breathing.
The brutality of the crime suggests Sharita may have had a personal relationship with her killer.
It may have been someone that Sharita knew.
Maybe whoever she went down there with, she trusted them and went down there to get out of the rain.
In a case where everyone is a suspect, investigators decide to start with the people closest to Sharita, her parents.
It was pretty strange that Mom was able to find Sharita's body relatively soon. And the fact that she knew to check that area at the bridge was very suspicious.
Could they be hiding something?
Sharita's dad had met her mom at the station, and when detectives sat down with them, they seemed devastated.
It's just, it doesn't feel real.
It's a whole bunch of disbelief.
Sharita's mother tells detectives that she regrets ever letting her daughter leave home the night before.
It was a rainy day, and when she had mentioned it to her parents, they didn't want her to go, but she said that she was just going to meet her friend, and then they would go together, and it was only about a 5-minute walk from the house.
What did you all do after she left?
I worked the night shift, so I left just after she did.
And I ended up falling asleep on the couch.
Her mom said that when she woke up a few hours later, she realized Sharita wasn't in her bed.
The fact that Sharita did not come home that night wasn't necessarily out of character because she used to spend the night with her friend from time to time.
It wasn't until the next morning that her mother realized something wasn't right.
Hey, Adriana.
She was not with her girlfriend.
She, in fact, did not meet up with her that night.
Sharita Williams' parents were in a state of unmeasured panic.
What made you go to 36th Street?
That's where Adriana said we should look.
The friend she was supposed to be with that night?
Yes.
They called her friend, and her girlfriend told them that she may be near the 36th Street Bridge.
The police believed that her mother was telling the truth.
But now they've added another name to their suspect list.
Adriana, the girlfriend, said, well, why don't you look in the area of the 36th Street Bridge, which was strange. Why did she say that?
And did she say why she thought Sharita might be there?
No. She didn't mention anything.
To detectives, it sounds like Sharita's best friend could know more than she'd let on.
It was very suspicious.
Did she have some knowledge of this murder, or at least the location of Sharita's body?
The police wanted to talk to Adriana.
Detectives immediately head to her home in East Pennsauken.
Sharita's friend confirmed for police that she told Mom that she may be in the area of the 36th Street Bridge.
How'd you know she would be there?
I didn't. I just had a feeling.
What gave you that feeling?
Adriana reveals that Sharita has been seeing a boy named Ed Kelly.
He lives across the bridge.
Sometimes the decisions that we make to do things don't always turn out the way they should. And it's hard when you're doing things undercover. You're not telling your parents what you're really doing or where you're going. Don't shut your parents out. It's not that they're trying to stop you from growing and having fun. It's important that your parents know what you're doing and who you're doing it with. And sometimes these things can be avoided.
Less than 24 hours after Sharita Williams went missing, her lifeless body was found suffocated under the 36th Street Bridge.
To take a young girl like this that had her whole life ahead of her and to bound her, gag her, and sexually assault her, it's got to be a monster, a person who had done something like that.
And now, Sharita's best friend, Adriana, has revealed the victim was dating a boy named Ed Kelly, who lives just 2 blocks from the scene of the crime.
Ed and Sharita has been dating on and off for about a year.
Did she say she was going to see Ed last night?
No, but it makes sense.
That was the only reason she could think of as to why Sharita would have lied to her parents. If they had known how far she was going on her own, they never would have let her leave the house.
So she used Adriana as a cover to go see this young man.
Even teenagers who are inherently good often live a double life. It's that age where kids want to experiment.
What was Ed and Sharita's relationship like?
Not great, if I'm being honest.
Ed was known as like a ladies' man and a charmer.
He had several ladies who he was pursuing.
Her friend said Sharita was definitely more into Ed Kelly than he was into her.
I don't really know what she saw in him.
To detectives, it sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Was there some sort of jealousy? Did she present a problem for him or for some other girl who found out about her?
Police wanted to look heavily into Ed Kelly and what happened that night.
Ed agrees to come in for an interview, and when they sit down to talk, he admits Sharita had visited his home on the night she was killed, but he claims he never laid eyes on her.
He tells them, I know she came by, but I was asleep because I was going to be working a later shift.
When Sharita goes to the home and knocks on the door, the young man's mother answers, and she turns Sharita away. She did not allow her to come into the home.
So you didn't speak to her at all?
Not in person, no, but we talked on the phone a little later.
What'd you talk about?
She was basically chewing me out because I didn't come down there to see her.
After that, he had no interest in speaking with her that evening. He decided that he was going to unplug his phone and not respond.
That was the last time I spoke to her. After that, I went to work around 11.
But is he telling the truth?
The police requested that he take a voice stress test.
It is a form of a lie detector test.
This voice stress test would tell when there were natural inclinations in his voice where he was not being truthful.
Without hesitation, Ed agrees.
He passed the test. Seems he's telling the truth. He only spoke to her one time.
But detectives still need to verify his story.
Voice stress tests and lie detectors are not foolproof. So even though Ed passed the test, they still had to follow up on the things he had said in the interview.
Ed's mom was very clear that she had never let Sharita inside the house and that Ed never had any physical contact with her.
But could she be lying to protect her son?
Parents will cover up for their children, so police take it a step further to see if there's anything was left out.
They filed a subpoena for Ed's phone records to confirm his communications with Sharita and his location at the time.
These types of requests take time.
So, detectives decide to circle back to a piece of evidence they discovered at the crime scene, a receipt from a local sporting goods store.
Unfortunately, the item was bought with cash, so their only hope was that the store had some good quality surveillance footage.
But it turns out to be another setback.
The surveillance camera that week wasn't working at all.
It is very disappointing.
Detectives are running out of leads until they receive word that Ed Kelly's phone records have come in.
Ed Kelly told policemen that Sharita only called once.
But based on his call log, that was a lie.
She had made multiple calls to him that night from a payphone.
In fact, she called 16 times.
Either he managed to dupe the voice stress test, or the police weren't asking the right questions.
Now detectives want to know what their suspect is hiding.
I have a suspect, and he's not telling the whole truth. There's a green light that comes on.
It definitely seems like there was something more there than we might have initially thought.
Why is she calling 16 times? What was the conversation that led Sharita down this road?
Detectives find a possible answer when they look deeper into Ed's phone records.
In his statement, he stated that he cut his phone off and he went to sleep before he went to work.
But he didn't actually turn his phone off. After Sharita stopped calling, he had received this phone call that he actually picked up.
At the time when he said his phone was cut off, he was in fact calling another woman.
After phone records proved that Ed Kelly lied during his police interview, he reclaimed his place at the top of the suspect list in Sharita Williams' murder.
And what Ed was saying was not adding up.
It's very suspicious that this young lady would be out on the payphone calling him 16 times. When he said that he cut his phone off.
Even more suspicious is that Ed had received a call from another woman that night, which he'd also failed to mention.
Come to find out, a woman named Crystal Hill had spoken with him that night.
Had Sharita found herself on the losing end of a deadly love triangle?
The police want to know who this other person is, and does this other person play a role in the demise of Sharita Williams?
The next day, when detectives go looking for Crystal Hill, they learn that she's already locked up.
She was in custody because she had just been picked up on shoplifting charges.
And when they transfer her to the precinct for questioning, Crystal confirms what the detectives already suspect.
How long have you two been together?
About a year or so, but it's all been long distance since I left for school.
She was in college in Florida at the time.
She was in the area for Thanksgiving. She said she had seen Ed the day before Thanksgiving and the Sunday thereafterwards.
So would you say you two are exclusive?
Yeah, of course. What do you mean?
As far as Crystal was concerned, Ed was her man and nobody else's.
She denies knowing anything about Sharita at all.
Crystal also denies having any knowledge of her murder, but detectives aren't convinced she's telling the truth.
She did not seem to be very forthcoming with the investigators.
Maybe she was covering him.
Do you mind if we perform a voice stress test on you?
Sure.
At the end of the test, detectives believe their suspicions are warranted.
It did come back that she was being deceptive.
She has some information that she's hiding.
Are you sure you don't have any knowledge about the death of Sharita Williams?
Yes.
Interesting.
Under intense questioning, Crystal refuses to budge.
She said she was telling the truth.
She stuck to her story.
Failing a lie detector is not proof of guilt. These tests are not 100% accurate. And there are a lot of reasons a person could be lying to the police outside of being a murderer.
It's another frustrating setback. But when the investigators receive word that a semen sample has been found on Sharita's pants, they believe it could be the final nail in Ed Kelly's coffin.
Now we've got the thing that can give us potential DNA.
Police wanted to see if it matched with Ed Kelly.
Detectives quickly obtain a DNA sample from Ed. But once the comparison is made, the results aren't what anyone expected.
It came back that Ed wasn't a match.
Ed Kelly's telling the truth.
Whatever Ed and Crystal were lying about, it was unrelated to this crime.
It's news that shocks the detectives, as well as Sharita Williams' family.
They were under the impression that it was case closed. And then the letdown and the hurt and pain, you have to relive all of that trauma over again.
But no one is giving up hope.
It's up to a good investigator to get momentum back and not to get tunnel vision. It's nice when things fall the way they should, but when they don't, you just gotta keep moving.
Detectives decide to run the suspect's DNA profile through a national database called CODIS in hopes of turning up a fresh lead.
But they had nothing on file to match that specimen.
Which means whomever this semen came from is not some serial rapist.
With no new suspects, the case goes cold.
There weren't any other leads. There was nowhere else to turn.
And with a killer on the loose, fear grips the community.
Pennsauken is a wonderful area to raise children, and when something like this happens, it kind of shakes you at your core.
As months turn to years, Sharita's family clings to the hope that one day justice will be served for their daughter.
To keep the case alive, Sharita's father contacted the police once a week.
They would do marches over the 36th Street Bridge. They also put up $5,000 for a reward for any information.
You have to commend Sharita's parents for keeping this case alive.
But the more time that passes, the harder it is to keep the faith.
4 years, nothing had came up.
Until February 1st, 2007.
The police were notified that they have a hit on the semen sample that was recovered on Sharita's body.
It was a guy by the name of Warren Dixon.
It's the big break that they were waiting for.
They should get killed.
"4 years after her death, police in Pennsauken, New Jersey have finally identified a person of interest in the murder of Sharita Williams.
All of a sudden, this new name, bings, in CODIS, Warren Dixon, that matches to this DNA that they've had for years now.
Warren was just recently arrested on drug charges in Philadelphia.
This is a huge break in the case.
Nonetheless, his name doesn't ring a bell for detectives.
Warren's name never came up in any of the investigations.
They don't know who he is.
When detectives consult Sharita's family, they say they've never heard of him either.
The family didn't know who Warren was.
But Sharita's school friends reveal a possible connection.
Warren and Sharita actually went to high school together.
Further digging turns up even more compelling evidence.
He did live very close to the bridge where Sharita was found. And right after Sharita's death, this gentleman dropped out of school and left the area.
After determining that Warren has been released on his drug charge in Philadelphia and is now back in New Jersey, detectives intercept him at a meeting with his probation officer.
He was willing to talk to them. It didn't seem that he was really that concerned.
Face to face with Warren, detectives start off slow.
They didn't give him the information that they had a hit on his DNA. They first wanted to see what he had to say.
I appreciate you talking with us, Warren. Happy to help.
They proceeded to ask him questions about his life, about his family, and then started to press a little bit forward.
Did you know a girl in school by the name of Sharita Williams?
Think so. Did she get killed?
Warren tells detectives he'd heard a rumor that Sharita's boyfriend was responsible for her murder.
Immediately, he was pointing the finger at somebody else.
He was trying to throw police in a different direction.
But detectives don't take the bait. And as they start rolling out the evidence, Warren tries to play it cool.
Does this look like your do-rag?
Could be. How should I know?
It didn't seem like he was shook or anything like that.
But that changes when detectives reveal they have proof Warren was with Sharita on the night she died.
Warren is confronted with the fact that it is his semen on Sharita's pants.
Became almost irate, got very upset, started yelling.
So what you trying to say, man? Like, what are y'all trying to say?
It's at that moment that Warren's story takes a dramatic turn.
He changes the story from being just acquaintances to they may have had an intimate encounter maybe once or twice.
Was one of those times around Thanksgiving 2003?
Man, that was 4 years ago. How am I supposed to remember that?
He said he couldn't remember all the details.
But he is certain about one thing.
I ain't kill her, man. I ain't kill her.
He finds himself cornered with all of these facts.
It's clear that he was just changing his story to try to keep up with the evidence.
And by the end of the interview, Warren is grasping at straws.
What if I didn't mean to kill her?
He said, what if it was an accident? Would the person still be charged with murder?
He's looking for any way out of this, and that's all he can come up with.
As far as detectives are concerned, Warren's question is as good as a confession. But the same doesn't hold true for the courts.
Warren's statement was obviously highly suspicious, but there was still the possibility that he had sex with Sharita and someone else killed her.
They didn't have a strong case that they thought that they'd be able to prosecute.
Yes, sir.
So detectives are forced to leave empty-handed.
See you soon, Warren.
But immediately after the interview, they start trying to poke holes in his story.
Warren had told police that he'd had a consensual sexual relationship with Sharita.
Sharita's best friends all disagree.
They said no way that she would ever be involved with him.
Warren was more of like a loner, kind of stuck to himself.
He definitely wouldn't be somebody that she would go out with or have sex with.
Although detectives grill Warren 2 more times, he never gives in.
He kept to his line story.
And by the beginning of 2009, it's clear that no new evidence is coming to light. So the prosecutors assigned to the case decide to make a bold move.
Even though their case was circumstantial, even though they didn't have a confession, they decided to file charges against Warren Dixon.
They arrest Warren for Sharita's murder.
Though grateful to have their daughter's killer behind bars, Sharita's parents still want answers.
How did you run into my daughter? Why did you do this?
And they're about to get them from the last place they ever expected.
An informant came forward, a gentleman who shared a cell with Warren Dixon.
While Warren was incarcerated, he's confessing these things.
Warren Dixon's mouth fills in the gap and lays all of the pieces out.
After linking his DNA to the crime scene, New Jersey police have arrested Warren Dixon for the murder of his former high school classmate, Sharita Williams. But he insists they have the wrong man.
I ain't kill her, man. I ain't kill her.
He said they had consensual sexual encounter. They didn't have any real evidence that said that he had committed the crime.
But now, detectives have received a surprising phone call from the county jail.
It was Warren's cellmate, and he wanted to talk to detectives.
He said while they're incarcerated together, Ms. Dixon, he's talking about his crazy sexual appetite.
He seemed to be very obsessed with these ideas of like weird sexual fantasies.
And while bragging about his sexual exploits, Warren let something slip.
Warren gave very explicit details about the case with Sharita Williams.
His cellmate tells police that Warren went into detail about how almost 6 years earlier, he had spotted Sharita walking in the rain near the 36th Street Bridge.
Hey, Sharita, that's you?
Oh, hey, it's Warren, right?
How you been?
It starts to storm, and she wants to get out of the way of being drenched.
You want to talk for a minute? I know somewhere we can get dry.
All right.
Come on.
Her and Warren were cordial enough for her to trust him.
He told her that, you know, let's just take shelter.
But Warren had something different in mind.
He tried to kiss her.
Warren commenced to wanting to have sexual relations with her.
Get off of me.
She responds, back up off me, you know, get away.
She resisted. That's when he physically subdued her.
He threw her to the ground.
Stop.
He forces himself upon her.
Stop. Let go.
She was screaming and making all types of noise.
He uses his do-rag to try to silence her, but it's never going to give enough grip. And so he finds the nearby sporting good bags and stuffs them down her throat until she is completely asphyxiated.
By the time it was all over, Sharita Williams was dead.
Bound her and gag her and strangle her and rape her. It's unthinkable.
It's a horrifying story of betrayal.
She was with somebody that she thought she could trust because it was a schoolmate.
She thought she was safe.
The idea that someone would hurt her in the way that she was hurt never crossed her mind.
And detectives have every reason to believe Warren's cellmate is telling the truth.
Warren's cellmate had details that had never been released to the public.
It is a smoking gun. The only person that would know that information is the killer.
When investigators inform Warren's defense team of the new evidence, it's clear the jig is up.
With the DNA evidence that is against him, the new informant that's coming forward, Warren and his team knew that his best interest at this point would be to take a plea deal for a lesser charge, for manslaughter and attempted sexual assault.
That was a difficult thing for Sharita's family to come to terms with. But at the end of the day, it was better to see their daughter's killer behind bars than to risk him walking free.
It's always a risk when you go to trial. We don't want any chance of this man going free.
At his first court hearing, Warren remains defiant.
He didn't follow the directions of the judge. He had to physically be put to his feet to stand up.
But under the terms of his deal, he's compelled to confess in open court.
He had to do what they told him to do if he wanted that deal. He had to admit not just that he's guilty, but that he did murder her.
I imagine that he felt very small that day. I hope he did.
For the Williams family, Warren's confession offers a small degree of closure.
There's nothing worse than something happening to a loved one and you have no clue as to what happened and why it happened.
But for his horrific crime, he's sentenced to just 20 years in prison.
We're looking at an individual who is known to be a sexual deviant, who has raped a 16-year-old girl. The reduced charges that he had got didn't seem to sit well with the community.
It is scary that he will be eligible for parole, that someone that could do a heinous crime like that would walk around the streets with us.
And while Warren may get a second chance in life, Sharita Williams never will.
One of the things that it's hardest to consider when we look at the death of people is not who they were, but who they could have been.
Her family will never be able to see her again. They'll never be able to see what type of adult she would have become.
The loss of Sharita to the people that loved her, it can't be measured.
The fact that she cared so much about other people and that her life goal was to service people, that's more than commendable, but she's not here to do so, and I think this is going to be something that lives in the community forever. A Sharita Williams story is never going to die away.
She was very close to her family. She was a family girl.
She was only 22, and there's nothing that will ever fill that hole for them.
I just had about 9 gunshots back behind my building.
He winds up locating a silver Lexus with gunshot damage to the driver's side of the vehicle.
The vehicle was locked. There was a black female in the driver's side seat, slumped over.
I saw somebody take off running.
She was always going to be his girl. That means his property.
When we got into the cell phone, there was a saved video.
She was able to speak from the grave.
He wanted to get revenge, and he didn't want her to be happy.
May 22nd, 2021. It's just after 10 p.m. in Walterboro, South Carolina. An off-duty Walterboro police officer is relaxing at home.
Sergeant Ross Hance has lived at the Forest Point Apartments for a number of years, and he was living there at the time.
At 10:14 p.m., he hears a familiar but alarming sound.
He, at that point, hears multiple gunshots. He advises he hears approximately 9 gunshots come from the parking lot area.
He called into dispatch and reported those shots.
Hey, I just had about 9 gunshots back behind my building in Forest Point.
All right, I'll get somebody out there.
I'm stepping outside right now to try to find out what's going on.
All right.
He proceeds to go outside to check the parking lot, trying to find a crime scene.
As the off-duty officer went to look around his cruiser, he noticed that it was a silver Lexus parked next to his car.
He winds up locating a silver Lexus with multiple signs of gunshot damage to the driver's side of the vehicle.
He saw a silver car with the windows busted out, and that's when he saw the victim.
The vehicle was locked. There was a black female in the driver's side seat, slumped over, appeared to be unresponsive.
More officers arrive on the scene.
In order to gain access to the vehicle, the responding officers had to use what's called a lockout kit.
As they attempt to reach the victim, calls continue to come into 911.
911, where's your emergency?
We're at Forest Point. I think somebody already called because cops are already out here.
Yes, ma'am. Did you hear anything or see anything?
I didn't see anything. We just heard the gunshot. I can let you talk to my neighbor, and she can tell you what she saw, maybe. Hold on 1 second. She's coming up the stairs. She was scared because she saw something. Hello?
Did you see anybody?
I saw somebody take off running. That's what I saw.
The officers gain access to the vehicle.
The bullets clearly came from the driver's side door, so they came from the passenger side to try to render aid.
She had a lot of wounds on her from the glass that had kind of embedded in her skin and cut her when it shattered.
She had several gunshots. She was deceased. They searched the car, searched her persons, and they found her ID, which identified her as 22-year-old Danisha Holloway.
When they identified her as Denasia Holloway, Officer Hance also knew that she was also a resident within the apartment complex.
They were just trying to figure out why someone would do this in, her point of residence. This is her parking lot to her apartment. Who thought that they could do this and get away with it?
Denasia Alexis Holloway was born on January 21st, 1999. She grew up alongside two brothers and a family of 5.
She was the only daughter in her family. Her family really loved her and idolized her as being that only daughter.
Denasia went to R.B. Stahl High School in North Charleston, where she excelled at track and also participated in ROTC. According to her family, Denasia was an incredible track star. In her senior year, they said she broke the record for the 100-meter dash, which is absolutely amazing. She ran it in 13.5 seconds in April 1st, 2017. That's just incredible. Denasia enrolled in Coastal Carolina University in 2019, and she majored in biology, scheduled to graduate in the class of 2023.
By January 2020, Denasia was dating Justin Carroll.
Justin was 21 at the time they met. Denasia was 22. They were really young, and, anyone being in love in your early 20s is going to be pretty much a honeymoon phase.
In October, the couple moved in together. They shared an apartment in the Forest Point complex, along with the Denasia's fur babies.
She was a humble, sweet person that really loved animals and loved to give her time to different, organizations in the area, but also really spend time with her family and appreciated that element of her life.
In early 2021, Denasia and Justin ended their relationship, and he moved out. Denasia planned to leave her apartment in Walterboro.
She had just graduated and was coming home. She was trying to move back to Somerville to be with her family, which is where they currently lived.
Denasia also took a new job, working for a major shipping company, and started planning her future.
One night, Denasia started getting nonstop text messages from Justin. So the way she handled it, she sent him a picture of her and her friend to kind of get him to see, listen, I've moved on.
She was getting out into the world again and starting to travel and seeing this new guy. Things were looking up. She was about to move out of those apartments and was looking forward to moving back home with her parents for a little while.
But on the evening of May 22nd, 2021, Denasia is dead inside her car in the parking lot of her apartment building. Homicide detectives arrive on the scene.
Well, they began to secure the crime scene to make sure none of the evidence was tampered with, and also to locate any kind of spent casings in the area.
They found 6 .40 caliber shell casings. And what's important about that is shell casings can be used for identification of the suspect, because if he loaded the gun, his prints may be on the shell casing themselves. So that is very valuable evidence.
The coroner pronounced her dead. At that point, she was removed from the vehicle, a search of the vehicle, and the vehicle was processed.
A couple DNA swabs were taken from the vehicle that night. When we take DNA swabs, we don't know right away that anything is actually on the swab. You have to send that off for testing. But the palm print indicated that someone was on the outside of the vehicle touching it in some form. When Denasia was discovered, her car door was shut.
Investigators thoroughly searched the inside of Denasia's vehicle for more evidence.
Nothing was taken. Her purse was still there. Her cell phone was there, so it wasn't a robbery.
What we do when we encounter a phone for a victim, or any case that we seize a phone, our normal process is to log it into evidence, and we do have to obtain a search warrant to go any further as far as looking into the phone.
Her phone could have had any kind of messages, any kind of recordings on it. Who knows what she could have on her phone. From there, they started to canvass the area, which means that they're knocking on doors, seeing who heard what, who's seen anything. Officers noticed several residents standing on the balcony, and so they knocked on the door, asked if they seen anything. And some of them said they seen a male running from the scene in very dark clothing, but it was so dark, it was hard to identify his face. And they said, yes, we heard the gunshots. We ran outside. We saw a possible white male running with a hood on and with a mask covered up half of his face, so we couldn't really see who he was, but we did see him run from the scene.
Is the masked man Denasia's attacker?
In crimes of any nature, especially violent crimes like this one, investigators quickly will try and turn to security camera footage, and that can be, from anywhere that had an angle of where this crime occurred.
So at that point, they didn't know what was going on. But the apartment complex has surveillance cameras. And so what they did was contact the apartment complex manager, who let them in to review that camera footage. You could see some movement beside her car, and then you see the stocky white male running away.
After 22-year-old Denasia Holloway is shot to death in front of her apartment building, police in Walterboro, South Carolina obtained surveillance footage from management.
They made contact with the apartment complex so they could review the video evidence, because there was multiple cameras at the scene.
On one video, investigators see Denasia's vehicle pull into the apartment complex at 10:05 p.m., minutes before the first 911 call.
They observed another vehicle following behind Miss Holloway pull off and park out of sight of the cameras.
So as they look through the video, they could see that her Lexus pull in, backs into the space next to the patrol car. Her lights are still on.
After parking what appeared to be a pickup truck in an out-of-the-way area, they saw this white male walk towards the location where she was parked, but kind of linger around behind the building.
Within minutes, a white male subject is seen approaching the apartment complex main office, then approaching the 200 building. He's later seen walking away from the 200 building, lighting a cigarette, and then approaching Miss Holloway's vehicle.
He goes to the car, and you can clearly see that he's aggressive, talking to her, lean over to the window. You know something's going on, but he's really blocking the view by the camera with his body. You can't really see what's going on.
Next thing you see is the unidentified male running away back toward the front parking area.
Even though they had this security camera footage, in the nighttime, in the dark, it's still very hard to pick up any clues. They can see a figure, but they can't really make out any identifying, features of this individual.
They also can't get a clear shot of the truck. Across the street, they find more cameras.
There's a nearby church which gives us a better look at the vehicle, and as far as potential make and model, you can tell it's a later model vehicle, but we didn't have a good look at the plate.
Investigators reach out to Denasia's family to deliver the heartbreaking news.
You're never prepared for it, to see people grieving, but it's something you have to do. You approach the family and you tell them what happened with sincerity, but as an investigator, you want to make sure you let their family know that you're going to solve the case and bring justice for their family members.
When the family first found out about Denasia's death, instantly they are shocked. They are beside themselves and just don't even know how to handle this news.
The coroner is the one that actually gives the notification to the family. I and any other officers involved, we just keep working the case. That leaves me in a position to just do nothing but find the suspect.
Investigators get details about Denasia's death from the autopsy.
She had been shot at least 4 times, according to the pathologist's report. The fatal one being the shot to her neck, which killed her almost instantly.
A theory about the killing takes shape.
It was a specific target car with none of the other cars, with nothing taken. It was shot 4 times, and it just seemed like it was just personal. It didn't seem random at all.
She did not call 911 right away, didn't try to drive away at that point. It was something personal. She knew the individual. You have to look at a possible past relationship, a friendship gone bad, a family member. So at that point, they knew that they would have to dive into her history.
Investigators run her name through the system. They learned that on January 7th, 2021, police were called to Denasia's apartment over a domestic dispute between Denasia and her then boyfriend, Justin Carroll.
Ms. Holloway refused to give Justin her phone. He thought she was cheating. She wouldn't unlock it. He got angry. She refused to open her phone. So then he went to the back bedroom and pulled out the gun out of the dresser drawer and put it to her face.
Denasia called her mom during that incident, and her mother called the police to report this. Her mother was taking it very seriously.
By the time the police arrived, Justin was no longer there. Justin fled, taking the gun with him.
Police finally caught with him. He was charged with domestic violence and had order of protection put on him. Order of protection is very specific of what it does. What it does protects the victim from being contacted by the suspect. So at that time, he could not text her, he could not call her, leave any kind of message to a friend or family. He had no contact at all. It was what the order says.
After the restraining order, I believe she distanced herself a good bit from him. She stayed within the apartment complex. He had moved out at that point.
Justin went back to his grandparents and lived with them for a while, so they had totally split up and was separated. Ms. Holloway finally went back and lived by herself later on.
Police run a background check on Justin Carroll. The incident with Denasia wasn't his first brush with the law.
In 2016, Justin had 5 counts of attempted murder against him, so he's used to doing violent things.
Those charges were eventually reduced.
He had been convicted of assault and battery in the first degree, and he was forbidden from carrying a firearm.
Justin was sentenced to 8 years of probation, but his probation was revoked in March 2018 when he was found in possession of a gun and a controlled substance. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison, but released on probation in 2020, shortly before he and Denasia met. Justin's history and violence against Denasia makes him suspect number 1.
He became a person of interest at this time because he has the means and the motives to maybe do this.
Investigators pulled Justin's DMV records.
It gives us a DMV photo along with his height and weight.
They compared it to the video surveillance and his DMV photo, which listed him as 5'6", 230 pounds, and saw that there was a large resemblance there.
That put Mr. Carroll kind of at our top of our list of people we really want to talk to. At this point, we had a potential murder suspect.
Investigators compare Justin Carroll's driver's license photo to surveillance footage taken from the scene where his ex-girlfriend, Denasia Holloway, was gunned down.
That kind of helped close the circle on him a little bit more. His height and weight and his DMV photo really kind of, it was good enough for us to say we're kind of pointed in the right direction.
Detectives also learn what kind of vehicle he drives.
That vehicle's registered to family members at an address in a different part of the city. We had made contact with the family members that night. They had notified us that he was at work, and from work called them and told them he was going to leave town and go to Charleston.
The last thing investigators need is for Justin to leave town.
Family members were asked to see if he would come back to Walterboro and talk to law enforcement.
Justin told them that he was in Ravenel, South Carolina at the time, and that he would agree to come back and speak with them in reference to the shooting.
This time, you knew he had a violent past in history, and that also that they had domestic violence between each other. So they want to get him in custody as soon as possible.
Taking no chances, investigators ping Justin's phone so they can follow his movements.
Investigators obtained a search warrant through Verizon for the GPS data location and cell phone mapping. We have an investigator with our office who conducts all the mathematical information and basically is able to show what that information means.
He was in the area of the Forest Point Apartments at the time of the murder and then headed north to the Ravenel area and then back into the Walterboro area.
The pings kind of confirmed that he was making his way back.
But suddenly, his route changes.
They noticed by picking his phone that he wasn't coming towards the police station at all.
There was a bolo put out. Be on the lookout for a white single cab GMC that was en route coming from the Charleston area.
Officers with the Colleton County Sheriff's Office located him in the area of Roberts and Boulevard, conducted a traffic stop on him.
They did a felony stop on him because you're high risk at that time because they knew he probably had a gun on him.
Put the car in park and turn the vehicle off. Take your left hand and open the door outside. Step out with your hands up. Hands on your head. Hands up. Step out with your hands up. Step out.
The police had their guns drawn. They asked for Justin to get out of the car. He got out of the car. He complied, and then they took him into custody.
We went ahead and towed the vehicle and seized his phone at the time, and he was transported to our Criminal Investigations Division for an interview.
Walterboro PD took him in for an interview. When he was told of Denaja's death, he was not very emotional.
Investigators asked Justin where he was at 10 p.m.
Justin had said, he left work around 10 and traveled to Charleston.
And then he had gone to see a friend in Ravenel, and they went to downtown Charleston from there. When questioned about exactly where they went and what they did, he was very short on answers. He couldn't tell them really anything at all.
Justin says his friend goes by the name Blessing Doctor. But Justin's version of his whereabouts don't match what investigators saw when they tracked his phone.
He had given us specific locations of where he had been in downtown Charleston. None of that showed on his GPS coordinates.
As suspicions around Justin grow, detectives ask him for one more thing.
During that interview, they presented him with a GSR kit. He consented.
A gunshot residue test is where a person's hands are swabbed, and what it is, the chemical blowback from a gun. When you fire a gun, it'll leave a residue in your hands. And we swab your hands, we can tell if you fired a gun within the last 24 hours.
It's not an instant test. It takes time. There's a lot of factors that play into that testing.
At one point during that interview, he did request a lawyer, so we had to let him go. I didn't have enough probable cause to arrest him at that point.
Investigators attempt to contact the man Justin said he spent the evening with.
The individual they identified as being Blessing Doctor, no one could ever make contact with him. Nobody knew anything about that individual.
It wasn't a strong alibi. In the end, I just don't think for investigators it was enough to say Justin had absolutely no part in this.
Needless to say, at that point, he's on our radar. We're going to do our best to kind of track his movements.
Investigators in South Carolina have a single suspect in the brutal shooting death of Denaja Holloway. Her ex-boyfriend, Justin Carroll. The day after the murder, they secure a warrant to search his truck.
Myself and another officer, we went through the truck. There was nothing in the truck to take. It had been completely cleaned out, and that kind of added to our suspicion.
Investigators seek a search warrant for both Justin and Denaja's phones. While they wait, they get a lucky break.
My next step was executing the search warrant for Denaja's phone. We knew that she had been with a male companion of some kind on vacation, presumably in some sort of romantic relationship. I kind of had a hunch that maybe he would know her passcode to her phone. So we went to his residence, asked if he had it, and he gave it to us. And so that way we were able to access the cell phone.
An individual lives their life through social media, texting, phone calls, communicating with friends and family. You could find a life story and history of day-to-day events of what is going on in that individual's life.
When we got into the cell phone, we went to the camera roll in the phone, and there was a saved video in the camera roll portion of the phone. It was a very short, maybe 8 to 10 second clip of Justin Carroll outside of Denaja's what appeared to be a car door. The timestamp and the date was exact to our homicide.
Denaja instantly felt this threat. She parked next to a Walterboro police vehicle, which in the instance is the safest thing to do, is trying to be as close to law enforcement as you possibly can put yourself. So she saw that immediate threat, and that's when Denaja pulled out her cell phone and began recording this interaction on Snapchat.
Miss Holloway said, saw me in my vehicle, he's following me in my parking lot, and I'm locking my doors. So she's trying to get away from him. She wanted nothing to do with him. She even locked her doors. And he still walked up on her trying to have a conversation.
And it was very clear that it was Justin Carroll on the video.
He's wearing a COVID mask around his chin. As he approaches the vehicle, he does pull the mask up over his face. At that point, the video ends.
Seconds later, Denaja was killed.
The phone never uploaded the information to social media.
The video did not show the actual crime, just the fact that he was there and that he had been approaching her at the time of the crime, or near the time of the crime.
Investigators note that Justin's appearance in the video is different from what he looked like in his interview, just a few hours later.
They noticed in the Snapchat video that Justin had a full head of hair, a lot of big hair all over his head. But during the interview, it was shaved.
Individuals who commit a crime will usually try to change their appearance to include changing of the clothing, haircuts, facial hair.
They knew something was up because it was totally different than what it was on the video prior to the day before. So they was very concerned about him fleeing the area and trying to conceal his identity.
If Justin did shoot Denaja, he likely tried to cover his tracks immediately.
I think he probably went to somebody's house, cleaned up, showered, shaved his head, cleaned out his truck, and got rid of the gun. Because when Colleton County Sheriff's Office pulled him over, one thing that they noticed about that truck was it was extremely clean. There was not a cup, a piece of paper, a fast food bag, anything in that truck.
Looking at the timeline of what happened, he had likely ditched the gun somewhere on the way out of town, on the way to Charleston or towards that area. We couldn't exactly pinpoint where he may have tossed the gun.
With or without a gun, the video is the evidence investigators need.
At that point, we felt comfortable enough to go ahead and secure the arrest warrant for Justin Carroll.
But they need to act fast.
This time, the investigators felt that he was trying to conceal his identity and probably flee.
On May 24, 2021, 2 days after Denaja Holloway was gunned down, Walterboro police prepared to arrest her suspected killer.
Number one, you have the gunshot residue on his hands that clearly showed that he shot a gun within the last 24 hours. And then also you have the Snapchat from Mrs. Holloway's phone that shows him clearly walking up to her at the crime scene on the same night, the same time frame.
If investigators hadn't found that video as quickly as they did, he could have already been far gone.
But investigators have kept a close eye on Justin since his interview. So, on the night of May 24th, they know exactly where to find him.
When we arrested Justin Carroll, he was working at the local Pizza Hut at the time. He didn't put up any sort of fight or argument or anything like that.
And at that time, he had a mask on that he wore around his neck. This was similar to the one on the Snapchat.
If Justin had been planning to flee, he never made it.
They proceeded to conduct a secondary interview on Justin Carroll. Justin did not elaborate on any further about the incident.
If you still want to talk to us, would you still want a lawyer like you said? I still want a lawyer.
He refused still to talk this time. He asked for an attorney. So at this time, he's still playing hardball.
They collected the cell phone from him at that time, and they impounded the truck.
Investigators finally received the search warrant for Justin's phone.
We had the forensic dumps of the cell phones. Cole's phone seemed to have been pretty much wiped clean. The text message exchange that appeared on Denaja's phone was actually not on Cole's phone at all.
The oldest text messages between Denaja and Justin were sent 5 days before the murder.
Her messages began with Justin Carroll when she went to Jacksonville, Florida on vacation. Justin basically was trying to start conversation with her about, money, needing items for work, that he still was in love with her. And then quickly the conversation turned jealous, and he started accusing her of being with somebody else.
When she did respond finally that she was in Fort Lauderdale and that she was with someone new, I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And he said, go ahead and have fun while you can. To me, that seems like the threat.
Males that are a perpetrator of domestic violence, they feel like their victims are their property. And because of that, they can never, date anybody, go with anybody. And just in mind, she was always going to be his girl. That means his property.
5 days later, Denaja returned home to Walterboro.
There was some serious concern about her driving home with her own vehicle. Her father allowed her to take his vehicle and drive home to her apartment in Walterboro.
She left her parents' house at about 9 p.m. that night, and he was on her tail as soon as she came into the apartment complex, which was about 10:07. I don't know how he knew exactly when she was getting home, but he did. He had obviously been watching and waiting.
There was nobody else around that vehicle at the time. It was just him, and ultimately he pulled a gun and shot her multiple times.
Justin is in custody, but bringing him to justice will be up to prosecutors. They know a guilty verdict isn't guaranteed.
It is a circumstantial case in that the entire murder was not caught on film, but everything conclusively pointed to Cole. And when you put all the pieces together, that's when you see the big picture.
In April 2024, Justin Carroll goes on trial for the murder of Denaja Holloway.
It took almost 3 years to get to trial in this case, but we did finally get there.
Denaja had a large group of family supporters backing her, her mother, father, family members. Everybody's showing up to show support and want justice for this crime.
Mom gets very, very emotional. It was very difficult for her to take the stand, but it was very important. and she knew that. She was able to lay some of that foundation.
She talked about Justin's first arrest, having to call 911, the urgency of having to pack up Justin's things to get them out of the apartment, even having to change her daughter's cell phone number several different times. It was a very scary and stressful situation for the both of them.
After the breakup, and despite the no-contact order, Justin continued to harass and threaten Denasia.
So at that time, he could not text her, he could not call her, leaving kind of message through a friend or family. He had no contact at all. It was what the order says. But he violated it several times because he refused not to stop seeing her, texting her, harassing her. He stalked her, and he simply would not stop.
Although no forensic evidence definitively places Justin at the scene, the result of a gunshot residue test is another strike against him.
The interesting thing about the gunshot residue evidence in this case is that there was just one particle on him of gunshot residue. Gunshot residue begins to slough off of you as soon as you shoot or are near a shot firearm. We believe that Justin Cole Carroll went and cleaned up and changed shirts, but this was one particle that he missed, and there's no reason that he should have had any gunshot residue on him, given what he was telling police. The best evidence that we had was a video that had come from Denasia Holloway's camera. I've never had my victim be the star witness in a murder case before, and thankfully, she took that video and was able to get justice for herself. I mean, that's incredible. I've never seen a piece of evidence like that. She was able to speak to the jury from the grave.
These, key pieces of evidence are coming out against Justin. The gunshot residue, the video. Those are the things that really make it hard to believe that he didn't do it.
Justin's defense is straightforward.
Their defense was that there's reasonable doubt, that you can't really see him in the video. The video's not that clear.
After less than 30 minutes of deliberation, the jury delivers its verdict.
The verdict was guilty, and he was sentenced to 60 years.
When the final verdict came out, Denasia's family was a sense of relief. Instant tears between all family members.
Denasia's family was point blank saying this would have never happened if he had not been let out on bond for his first charge. They were frustrated with that because if the judge had not made that decision, Denasia would possibly still be here today. She was only 22 and she was the only daughter in the family, and there's nothing that will ever fill that hole for them.
I wish that we had been alerted that he was having contact with her prior to the murder. But it's difficult. You don't know whether you're going to stir something up or stop something. And I think she was doing the best she could. It is tough to protect yourself from people that resort to this kind of violence over a very small thing.
What should have happened was, and this is what we always kind of advocate for, if she had let it be known or had the awareness to know that every time he reached out to me, even with it via text, Instagram, social media, let the police know, make them aware, because he could have been in jail. At the end of the day, I feel like this will bring awareness to our young African-American women to...
A new chapter for him, an opportunity to live a youthful life with someone that's very beautiful.
They were headed back to Southern California to celebrate their first Thanksgiving together.
The smell coming out of the bag was not something you can describe.
So the coroner investigator comes out, and he said, "This is a human."
And the lifestyle that she thought she was going to live was all a lie.
Things started to fall apart a little bit.
She wanted payback.
I did all this in 2 hours. Shut him up.
That's strange. And not only strange, that is insane.
I couldn't believe I did what I did.
In the city of Costa Mesa, the California dream is alive and well.
Costa Mesa is a relatively small town, and it is sunny all the time. A lot of people will settle in Costa Mesa because they can be so close to the beach without having to buy really expensive property.
It's around 2 p.m. on December 1st, 1991, when Costa Mesa resident Jose Escoval calls 911. He tells the operator of a concerning interaction he just had with his ex-girlfriend.
Jose receives a knock on his door.
He did look out the window and see a red Corvette in his driveway. Didn't recognize the car. He opened the door, and it was a former girlfriend, somebody that had lived with him on and off. They'd broken up a year ago, but still maintained a relationship. She was very disheveled, very upset, had gloves on her hands, wanted his help. So he invited her into the apartment, and she sat down and basically told him she wanted to elicit his help, his car, to get rid of her husband's body.
He says, hold on, just stay right there.
As soon as he was able to get out of her presence, he went straight to a payphone to call the police and say, hey, I need some help.
He identifies the woman as Omaima Nelson. Her husband's name is Bill.
Police dispatchers told him to stay put. An officer would meet with him very soon.
Born in 1935 and raised in Texas, Bill Nelson left a big impression.
Bill was a flamboyant kind of a man. He drove a red Corvette.
He was a dyed-in-the-wool Texan, known for his red cowboy boots and big belt buckles, and gregarious personality, fun to be around, liked to engage people, had a very bubbly personality, told tall tales and things of that nature.
This guy was larger than life in more ways than one. I mean, we're talking 6'4", 230 pounds, wearing red cowboy boots and a red hat. And many people, they took to Bill.
Bill Nelson had several wives, and he had kids with those wives, and he had grandkids with those kids. His first wife, I believe they lived in Florida, and his second wife in Texas, his third wife in Texas.
To earn a living, Bill was a jack of all trades.
Bill Nelson was a pilot. He crop dusted. He had a knowledge of computers to the point where he could take old ones apart and reassemble them and then at some point sell them. He also worked for a mortgage company.
By the early 90s, Bill was living in California. In the fall of 1991, he met a beautiful young woman who was also half his age.
One night at the pool hall, Omaima, she walks in, just kind of perusing the place. He said, who is that? Those high cheekbones, that beautiful hair. She was this Egyptian goddess, and he wanted to know more. Omaima was born in southern Egypt along the Nile River, kind of near the Sudanese border, and she was really born into a village that was really poor.
Omaima was raised in a Muslim household. She was devout. She met an oil worker while she was back in Egypt, and they started a relationship. When her mother heard that the relationship was getting kind of serious, she insisted that they get married. And at some point after the marriage, he was called back to Houston, Texas, and she accompanied him.
Around age 18, Omaima is faced with the possibility of the American dream, to live a totally different life. When she arrived, she spoke minimal English. Imagine being in a country where you are not able to stand up for yourself, you're not able to communicate your basic needs outside of your partner, you rely on him for everything.
he turned out to be a violent man. So she became a battered woman at 18 here in America. She managed to get help from a battered women's shelter and get away from him.
In 1987, Omaima left Texas and headed for California.
After divorcing her first husband, she moved in with her sister in San Clemente, California, located south of Costa Mesa. And she took up several jobs, one of which was being a model at some lingerie place in the mall.
She was a beautiful, beautiful woman with high cheekbones and, people would look her way. But the money wasn't coming in fast enough. She wanted more. She was attracted to these older men. To her, they provided protection, they provided stability, and they provided money.
Omaima had the belief that if she found a nice older man, that man would both take care of her and be kind.
And at 23 years old, Omaima met 56-year-old Bill Nelson at a bar.
She sees a big old statuesque guy. He was commanding the entire room, telling his stories, had everybody captivated.
Bill wooed Omaima with his cowboy persona and promises of a better life.
He may have mentioned that he, lived a lavish life, had a red Corvette, may have even owned a cattle ranch.
For Mr. Nelson, I imagine this romance was a new chapter for him, an opportunity to live a young, joyful, youthful life with someone that's very beautiful.
Once Omaima and Bill Nelson met each other, they were inseparable for days at a time, even a couple of weeks before he decided, you know what, I want you to meet my family. So they took a road trip to Arkansas and Texas, and that's where his family was. And on that trip, they made a big decision. He made the decision to propose to her, and not just propose, but within a day, it's time to get married.
And he drove to Phoenix, Arizona, where a justice of the peace married him.
The newlyweds continued their road trip, sharing the good news with Bill's family.
Omaima was elated. She finally found a family that she felt like she gelled with. She really felt this sense of belonging thanks to Bill, her new husband.
Following the road trip, the couple looked forward to spending the holidays together.
They were headed back to Southern California to celebrate their first Thanksgiving together.
But 3 days after Thanksgiving, Omaima's ex, Jose Escobar, calls 911 to report that Omaima showed up at his doorstep, asking him to help move Bill's body.
Police dispatchers told him to stay put, that they'd have officers running over to his house on Monte Vista, but an officer would meet with him very soon.
While Jose waits at the payphone, officers head to his home.
When police get to Joel's residence, Omaima's inside. And one of the officers goes inside to speak with her, start asking her some questions.
She's dressed all in black. She's got a black blazer on, black pants, even black leather gloves on her hands.
When asked about her husband, Omaima says he is out of town.
He'd spent Thanksgiving with her on Thursday, and on Friday he'd left for a business trip, and she expected him back the following Friday. Asked her kind of the circumstances around her connection to Jose. And she said she'd known him, past boyfriend. She'd come over to see if she could stay there because Bill was gone.
There was another police officer, a couple of them outside, and that's when they spotted that red Corvette.
We looked inside the Corvette. Officer Hogue spotted a 50-gallon trash bag, which was tied at the top, sitting on the front seat. So Officer Hogue removed it and set it down on the front yard grass and cut it open with a penknife. The smell is not something you can describe.
On December 1st, 1991, a bizarre scene is unfolding at a home in Costa Mesa, California.
Parked out front of the location was a Corvette, and Officer Hogue looked inside and saw a big trash bag that was tied at the top, sitting in plain view. Then Officer Hogue cut the bag open with a penknife he had. At that point, We could see a liquid substance in the bag. And the smell that was emanating from the bag was so powerful.
Meanwhile, officers find the homeowner, Jose Escoval, at a nearby payphone. Jose explains what prompted him to call 911.
About 2 in the afternoon, somebody was knocking on the door, and he looked out, saw the red Corvette, opened the door, and it was Omaima. She removed the black gloves that she was wearing. He saw that her hands had been cut with what looked like a knife. She had bruises on her arms, on her legs, so he invited her into the apartment.
She says, I need your help. Jose says, with what? She tells him that her husband attacked her and she ended up killing him.
She killed him, cut him up. She had a trash bag in the car right now and would pay him a huge sum of money if he would just help her.
I just need to move his body. And then she offers him $75,000 and 2 motorcycles if he actually obliges. He says, hold on, just stay right there.
Jose left the house and found a payphone and called 911.
Back at Jose's house, a grim discovery is underway.
The whole show was this bag that was in the back of the Corvette. One of the officers had taken the bag out of the car, opened it up. I look inside the bag, and I'm not really sure what I'm looking at. It just looks kind of nasty. I said, you know, this could be pig entrails for all I know. The thing that went through my mind, I need to identify this as human. Because I'm still thinking, this is some kind of gag. This is some kind of misdirection of some sort. I'm just still not believing that this is human internal parts that are in this bag. So we're gonna need a coroner out here. So the coroner investigator comes out. We opened up a big plastic cloth to the ground and we got the remains out onto the cloth. And then all of a sudden he says, hey, you better look at this. I go, what? He says, do you know what those little black spots on this organ is? I said, I got no idea what that is. He said, that's carbon. I said, it is? He said, yeah. I said, you know where that comes from? I said, no. He said, it comes from smoking. And he said, so unless you know any pigs that smoke, this is a human.
Investigators turn to Omaima.
We introduced ourselves, said obviously we don't want to really be talking out here on the street. Would you mind accompanying us to the police department for an interview? And she agreed.
But law enforcement has another priority before they talk to Omaima.
We were able to determine from her identification where she lived with her husband.
Officers immediately went over to that apartment to see if there was, you know, somebody in distress, somebody hurt.
It was locked. We obtained a key from the manager. I decided we had exigent circumstances to enter the apartment to see if there was someone inside that was injured and needed medical assistance. Upon entering the apartment, we instantly ascertained that nothing was amiss in the living room. Nothing seemed out of place. Upon entering the bedroom, Officer Hogan and I entered together and we saw blood spots on the side of a mattress. We then walked back out of the bedroom and entered the kitchen area, which was a mess. Sitting on the counter was a crock pot. There was a lot of dishes in the sink and on the countertop. And for some reason, I decided to open the top freezer door of the refrigerator, and I saw this round object in foil. And I tapped on it with my finger and said to Officer Hogue, hey, Danny, I wonder if this is his head or side of ham.
Officers with the Costa Mesa Police Department make troubling discoveries inside the home of Omaima and Bill Nelson.
We saw blood spots on the side of the mattress.
You go to the freezer, open it up, big ball of aluminum foil.
We had the right, upon entering the apartment under exigent circumstances, to look to see what's in plain sight or even in a closet. But we would need a search warrant to get back into the apartment and to make a detailed search.
As they wait for the warrant to come through, investigators conduct an interview with Omaima.
We got to the station and escorted her to an interview room. She wanted a cigarette. It was obvious that she was distressed. She was talking a mile a minute. She had cuts and bruises all over her.
I had fighting blood.
What happened?
Well, I went for a drink and the girls fight with me there and they got scratched.
Where is Bill away right now? Is he here in town, or is he out of town, or where is he?
He's out of town.
Did you tell Jose today that you killed your husband?
No, I did not.
What do you know about the garbage sack that was in your car?
Well, what is it?
Well, I'm asking you. What do you know about it?
I didn't know nothing about it.
Don't know anything about it? Oh.
Omaima offers an explanation.
She said Jose had, under false pretext, wanted to drive the red Corvette, had left for an hour. When he came back, that bag must have been in it. So Jose must have put the bag in the car. Then she said she'd been to a laundromat doing laundry earlier in the day and decided to walk next door to a bar, but left her car unlocked. And during that time, somebody must have put a bag behind the front passenger seat. She didn't know anything about it. It would go from one extreme to the other. It was very non-cogent.
The interview goes on, and Omaima's story continues to change.
And then at some point she said that Bill had raped her.
He went tied me up. And I didn't know what tied me up.
What did he tie you to?
To the bed.
Did you kill Bill because he did this to you? Tell me the truth of it.
I didn't burn.
Just after 10 p.m., the interview ends, as Omaima is escorted to the hospital for a physical examination.
A search warrant was granted for the premises, and I responded over to serve the search warrant at about 2 in the morning.
Investigators start in the bedroom, where the patrol officer spotted blood.
Next to what I presume was Bill's side of the bed were a pair of red cowboy boots and some boot shining materials on a rug. To the first eye, it looks okay.
The bed was made, mattress was on top. You lift the mattress and the blood was underneath.
It's saturated with blood and the box spring. And then you realize that there was a headboard at one point on that bed, but the headboard was broken into several pieces and it was stashed behind the head of the bed. Did a search of the closet. A small steam iron in the corner of the closet was broken. The handle was broken off of it. Wrapped up in newspaper in the closet was also a porcelain lamp that had been broken and a crushed lampshade.
Investigators moved to the living room.
There was boxes piled up, computer parts piled up, laying around.
We saw that most all of these boxes contained trash bags, and in those trash bags were other trash bags, and in those trash bags were what appeared to be human body parts.
The disturbing scene becomes even more troubling.
We did find a box that had 2 human hands in it. It was obvious that the hands were cooked. They looked to be fried or something. Detectives were searching the kitchen, and officers started going through the refrigerator, the freezer.
They locate the large item wrapped in foil.
Take that out, open it up. It looked like a human. I mean, that looked like a prop out of a horror movie, is what it looked like.
And also wrapped in a piece of tinfoil were genitals, male genitals. The genitals appeared as if they'd also been cooked and wrapped in tinfoil.
This is a house of horrors. It was pretty shocking.
Investigators question whether Omaima is physically capable of such violence.
The thing for me is she's petite, and I knew from Mr. Nelson's driver's license that he was, over 6 foot, 250 pounds. But in one particular box, in amongst the trash bags, were a pair of human legs, and those legs had ligature marks around the ankles. At the foot of the bed was a wicker clothes hamper full of dirty clothes, and in amongst those clothes were what appeared to be bloody garments. There was a necktie, men's necktie that was tied like a ligature. There was a section of rope that had some knots in it that appeared to be a ligature.
She says that Bill tied her to a bed, but Bill was the one with ligature marks. So everything she was saying was a lie.
On the morning of December 2nd, 1991, Omaima Nelson returns to the Costa Mesa police station following an examination at a local hospital. She is met with handcuffs.
Well, I'm going to be placing you under arrest at this time.
One.
For suspicion of murder.
I didn't kill him. I didn't kill him.
I remember driving with my partner down to the coroner's office to witness the autopsy. We get to the coroner's office and the watch commander calls and says, "Hey, Omaima wants to talk to you again."
Just tell me what you want to tell me and I'll listen.
I think I just killed him unconscious.
You think you killed him unconscious?
Yeah, because he did this to me and I couldn't believe I did what I did.
Omaima claimed that her husband became physically abusive shortly after the wedding. She told police that she began to cope with the abuse through drinking alcohol and using drugs. During this time, she also told them that she started having visual hallucinations and auditory hallucinations telling her to murder her husband.
So all I remember that I hit him to self-defense or something.
How did you hit him?
I think I hit him with an arm or something to get off me.
How did you kill him?
I don't remember how I killed him.
Omaima does remember bits of the gory events that followed.
I did all this in 2 hours. Chopped him up pieces in 2 hours.
Chopped him up? Bill in 2 hours?
Yeah. And all I remember that his head was flying from his body, hit the ceiling up there, and made a blood in the ceiling. And I fell asleep and I get up in the morning and I found the trash bag and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what happened.
She said that she heard voices. The Egyptian gods were helping her, telling her things.
She was telling me that who killed, he must die. Who killed, he killed. And she turned around and she walked away. And the next when I get up, I checked, I find my name and his name was written by blood in the mirror. It said, "Me and you."
What was written in blood?
Me and you.
Did you cook some parts of Bill before you wrapped him up in the plastic?
No, I'm not eating meat either much either. I don't eat meat.
You don't eat meat?
No, I don't eat meat.
You're a vegetarian?
Vegetarian, yes.
She would go from voices, I'm hearing people from the dead telling me these things, and Bill's head's here, and he's cut up, and there's body parts all over this place. She didn't really confess to anything other than she blacked out, she heard voices, there was a phone call, somebody said, "Look in the freezer, look in the trash bags." It didn't make any sense. There's no continuity to this thing. She was all over the map.
Well, I think you're telling me part of the truth, but not all of it.
Well, I think I need to talk to the psychiatrist to just see the last of my life.
We kind of sized her up as somebody that was just grasping at straws, trying to work herself out of this bad situation.
Following the interrogation, investigators get word that the coroner has positively identified the remains as Bill Nelson.
The coroner's office made a notification to next of kin, Bill's wife in Santa Maria, California was notified. He also had a son in Los Angeles.
I hate it for the family that has to even live through this because it's horrible. And truly, it is your worst nightmare.
Following her arrest, Omaima meets with multiple mental health professionals. Her story changes again and takes a shocking turn.
She was also able to provide gruesome details about the things that she did to her husband. Some of these details include dismembering her husband, boiling her husband, deep frying parts of his body.
She talked about cooking her husband, that his ribs tasted sweet. She put barbecue sauce on them and things of that nature.
That's strange. And not only strange, that is insane.
Investigators consider whether Omaima is telling the truth or setting up her defense.
It was really hard to believe that that happened. It really was.
Like one line, she was trying to say self-defense. The other line, she was trying to say criminal insanity.
It was obvious that she would throw things out, see what stuck.
Omaima's attorneys hire their own expert. In interviews, Dr. Nancy Kaiser-Boyd delves into Omaima's upbringing in Egypt.
She had a terrible childhood. She'd been sexually assaulted. Her father often beat her, and her stepmother there beat her also.
In addition to her stressful home environment, she lived in a culture during a time where female circumcision was very popular. And so this is something that she experienced very young, at 7 years old.
They took her to a dark place. She remembered it was 3 older women. Her mother wasn't there. She thought they were killing her. She described extraordinary pain and fear, and then she became unconscious. She didn't wake until her mother came and touched her. And by that time, she told me that they were preparing for her burial because they thought she was dead.
She's had and she has an opportunity to move on and move to a different country where she doesn't have to face feeling objectified every single day of her life. Who wouldn't want to move? She quickly realized that her American dream was not going to be what she thought it was going to be. She has to rely on another person the same way she was relying on other people in her previous country, and she has to rely on a man to do everything for her. And I imagine that was the exact thing she was trying to get away from.
In interviews with a psychologist, Omaima reveals she suffered sexual abuse, violence, and female circumcision.
We had her examined by a gynecologist, and that doctor told us that her vaginal area had a lot of scar tissue and that sex would be very painful for her.
During the trial prep, Omaima's defense team, her attorney and investigator, actually flew to this suburb of Cairo and did in-depth interviews of her family members and to kind of give a glimpse of her childhood growing up and possibly the abuses involved, to show that she'd had a series of dominating males in her life and that she'd experienced not only the circumcision but sexual assault. And so there was definitely some aspects of her past that they were trying to show contributed to this murder.
Detectives and prosecutors prepare to counter whatever defense Omaima brings to court. They speak with medical professionals who examined Omaima on the day of her arrest.
The hospital report concluded that there were no signs of rape or sexual assault.
She also mentioned that she was the one who had been held down and tied to this bedpost. No ligature marks at all around her wrists or her ankles. In fact, medical professionals said she had cuts on her, cuts that came from when she was stabbing Bill.
Investigators reach out to Bill's family, including his ex-wives.
Bill was very acquainted with family and his children. His kids would call him on a fairly regular basis, and yeah, he was just a great dad.
When I spoke to Bill's ex-wife, she spoke very fondly of Bill. And I was struck at one point that she really liked this guy. And She was deeply hurt by what happened to him.
In talking to the family, it was obvious that Bill Nelson was not a violent person. No evidence of that.
Investigators find no record of violence or abuse on Bill's behalf. Omaima is a different story.
One incident included her going to the pharmacy and grabbing whatever she wanted out of there and stealing without paying for this stuff. 2 security guards were watching her, and when they tried to stop her, she got extremely violent with them, so much so she ended up attacking them so viciously that she bit the chest of one of the women, the female security guards. She bit her breast so hard that she almost bit it off, and she also grabbed the vagina of the security guard as well.
As news of the gruesome crime spreads across the state, law enforcement gets a phone call.
Robert Hansen saw the news report of Omaima's crimes against Bill Nelson.
Mr. Robert Hansen, elderly, single, lived in an apartment, fairly successful business person. He met Omaima in a bar, and over conversation, one thing led to another, and she went home with him. Obviously, there was a relationship that started.
At one point during their relationship, they were having sex, and they were doing what she likes to call kinky sex.
She gets over there and ties him up, but instead of doing the kinky sexual thing that she promised, she attempted to rob him and pulls a gun on him. The defendant didn't tie the restraints tight enough because Robert was able to get free and escape from her. But he was so embarrassed that he never called the police. But once he saw the report in the news of Bill Nelson, he had to come forward. He couldn't keep silent because she had done something similar to him and he survived. So this wasn't Omaima's first rodeo.
Not sure which way.
Over a year after the grisly discovery of Bill Nelson's body, his wife, Omaima, is set to stand trial.
When the case goes to trial, December 1992, prosecutors immediately try to paint Omaima as this woman who wanted this lavish lifestyle that she was promised by Bill Nelson, and she was entitled to get this lifestyle.
Omaima Nelson was an ex-model, beautiful woman of Egyptian descent, very attractive, and she would seek out older men to fleece them for their money.
Bill was talking about being wealthy and owning a cattle ranch and having money, which fed right into what she was looking for. She was looking for another sugar daddy.
Following their whirlwind romance and wedding, a different truth emerged.
Things started to fall apart a little bit. She realized that Bill wasn't the man that he might be saying he is. He didn't have that cattle ranch. It became real to her that Bill had purported himself to be something other than he was.
The things that Bill promised her and the lifestyle that she thought she was going to live was all a lie. Bill didn't have any money, and she wanted payback.
On Thanksgiving Day, tensions were high, and Mr. Nelson found himself tied to a bed.
She immobilized him under a false pretext. Probably hit him with the iron. Several times, about 30 times. The iron broke during this assault. Lamp was used also, broken. And then he was stabbed too. And then started cutting him up.
From November 28th till December 1st, she completely destroyed her husband's body.
Next door neighbor, when he interviewed him, he said he was able to hear through their common wall chopping and the sink running and the garbage disposal running, to the point where he believed that the garbage disposal had given up. This activity went on through the early morning hours, quite prolonged.
Prosecutors also call Robert Hansen to the stand.
So So Robert's story shows the defendant's modus operandi, and he became a star witness in the prosecution's case against her, showing that she had previously tried to do this to someone else.
Omima's attorneys do not attempt an insanity plea.
Her lawyer argued that this was self-defense or imperfect self-defense, which is a sudden belief that you need to defend yourself by killing the other person.
Dr. Kaiser Boyd takes the stand.
What she told me was that he had her tied to the bed, and he was sitting on top of her, and he was angry, and he had his pocket knife out, and he was cutting her on the breasts. And she, as you can imagine, cutting is a trigger for someone who's had genital circumcision, so she flipped out. And she got loose, and she started hitting him with a lamp by the bed. She jumped up and grabbed an iron that was in the room. And started beating him with that. She said he fell on the bed, and she stabbed him with scissors. She cut him up because she didn't want him to be able to enter the afterlife. The reason Egyptians wrapped their dead and mummified them was so they could enter heaven whole. She told me she hoped if she got to heaven, she would never see him there.
Omima took the stand herself to testify in this case. And she began to share with them in a very emotional, heartfelt testimony about, first of all, her life and the continuous abuse and the trauma and the pain.
She was a victim of sexual assault, of child abuse, of female genital mutilation, and all of this trauma, like cumulatively over the years, contributed to her psychological stressors that caused her to do this.
The jury deliberates for 6 days.
I was on needles and pins. I didn't know what the outcome would be.
Ultimately, they came and found her guilty with second-degree murder, and she received 25 years to life.
But Omima's story doesn't end with the verdict.
While in prison, Omima meets another older gentleman that's rich. And that relationship began to flourish. They became married. However, during the marriage, her husband dies, but he also leaves her with a lot of money. And now, she's up for parole in 2026, and she may get her dream to finally live the American dream.
The life that she lived was brutal, and it's very clear to me that it followed her everywhere that she went.
I understand her anger. However, it does not justify the gruesome, horrible, horrific crime that she committed. She doesn't deserve to be free. I don't think you can rehabilitate evil.